We have a new Dandy's World update and there are some bugs to go through. Some of them have been fixed and some are still happening. So our first bug, I'm sure, has been happening for a while now. This user said, I got teleported into the elevator when the other person left. I am still really confused. This has been happening for a while. Let's take a look. So Roger is in the elevator and Pebble is heading over to the elevator. Roger leaves the game and the game teleports Pebble into the elevator. So the system, I guess, needs to replace the toon that left. We have issues with slippery toons that has been happening for a while now and players are getting frustrated. So this user mentioned that Pebble cannot face backwards anymore. And then they went on to say, were the hitboxes changed? And if so, is it because of every toon having slippery movement physics at high speeds? I really hate the slippery movement bug and it's only been an issue since the last week's update. King Mob replied saying, we standardized a lot of the physical properties on characters. You're saying previously Pebble felt better. So it looks like recently Pebble was updated and that caused some changes with the toon. The user goes on to say, yeah, I've noticed issues with the movement since the change. There was just more control at high speeds than there is now. Additionally, Shelly is nearly unplayable at high speeds now and all my friends have complained about the slippery movement. King Mob then said, what would you say is better about the previous iteration of Pebble? Just the friction? And then the user posted an example of a slippery toon. They used Yatta as an example. It's really hard to see Yatta sliding, but I'll show you what they're talking about. So we are going to use Ginger as an example, and as you can see, when she makes sharp turns, there's a small delay and it's like she's running on ice. If we compare that to Eclipse, who makes sharp turns, and this is really good if you're trying to make dukes against twisteds, and this is how it should be, very sharp movements. And if we compare the two, you should see a massive difference. Then King Mob said, after seeing the example from the user about Yatta being slippery, King Mob said, so you think all characters should control more like Pebble before last week's change? King Mob then said, I'll look into the differences between the two and compare. It's something we're trying to fine tune. Thanks for the detailed report. King Mob then said, also, is this more noticeable when speed items are used? The user replied saying yes, which is what makes Shelly specifically so rough to control at times since you are consistently going at a fast speed each floor. Then King Mob said, that's good info, thank you. So the dev team are looking into toons being slippery, like Ginger, as you saw, very slippery, like she's running on ice. Our next bug is to do with skill checks and completing them. This user said, annoying bug, you can see I'm clicking skill check. Yes, I've tried multiple times. Let's take a look. So they're completing a skill check on a mobile device and it won't let them click the skill check button. So on a mobile device, you actually have to click the button, it seems. There's a lot of problems with mobile devices, not being able to click some of your items in your inventory. So yes, mobile devices have a lot of problems. King Mob replied saying, are all of the machines broken and does it fix itself? The user said, every machine before floor 5 were fine, but none of the machines let me click skill check. I don't know what happened. I still got to floor 6, but I wasted a lot of time because of the bug and just found out it still bugged even at floor 6. So it seems like after floor 5, which is the Halloween map, they started having a problem completing skill checks. Our next bug is to do with failing skill checks and being slowed for some reason once you get off the machine after failing a skill check. This user said, once again, I did a circle machine, messed up, and when I got off it, I became extremely slow for no reason. Can you explain this? And the same thing happened to this user a few days ago. They said, how did this happen? Let's take a look. So they're completing the treadmill machine, they failed a skill check, and when they got off the machine, they have been slowed incredibly, and this is definitely a bug. Failing a skill check should not slow you. We have a bug to do with V's active ability when V highlights Twisted. This user said, is Blot supposed to have a square under him, or is that a bug? As you can see, Blot has a square underneath him, but the ink puddle is not highlighted. King Mob replied saying it's a weird quirk of the highlights where everything under a model is highlighted. It's technically a bug since we haven't worked around it. So the dev team are working to change how Twisted Blot is highlighted. We have a problem to do with Twisted Blot's hand and detection range of the hand. This user said bad video but gives location context at least. While I pressed directly against the railing, Blot smacked his hand at me. Not sure if it's intentional, but I feel like he shouldn't be able to hit me up here. And just for context, we have a video showing where they were, and this is what they're talking about over here. So Blot was able to hit them even when they were on the upper level. So we have an issue to do with the Halloween shop. This user said, I think the required thingy should not be appearing after buying the skin. So basically, after you buy a Halloween skin, it still shows the required pumpkins, as you can see. King Mob replied saying, good catch. I personally like the required pumpkins being there, just in case you bought a skin and you couldn't remember how much it was for, because some skins are for 1,200 pumpkins, and some people might be a bit confused as to where all of their pumpkins went. So I think keeping it wouldn't be such a bad idea. Our next bug is to do with Toodles, and after her optimization, there were collisions with her model. So this user said, Toodles can stack and Twisteds can't run through her, even though they should in the new update. And as you can see, there is collision with Toodles, and this should not be happening. This bug has been fixed in new servers. So this user asked, are they supposed to have collision boxes? King Mob said, no, this was a bug. We pushed this live. It will resolve in new servers. Good catch, everyone. This user then said, as a dev, I think they forgot to disable one part of the body. That is the reason why Toodles can collide and stack, but it has been fixed. Our next bug is to do with Alpha Sleeper Roger skin. His arms have iCall on them for some reason, and it's not supposed to be there. In game, his arms are normal, so that's good news. And in RP mode, his arms are normal as well. Only in the game lobby are his arms black. Our next bug is to do with the lobby. So you may have experienced people disappearing in the lobby, players disappearing. Well, we have the perspective of a player who has disappeared in the lobby, but they're really there. They said, so I joined a round, and as you can see, I equipped on Coco, and it didn't show up on the player bar thingy. It was a full lobby and the loading screen didn't include me in it. And if we take a look, they've selected Coco, they're in the game, but they don't show up. So everybody else will probably think that a player left. Our next problem is to do with Brush's Halloween skin and the artwork she paints once she uses her ability. This user said, it's not that serious, but scary stylish Brusher Halloween costume has the same painting canvas as her OG costume. So as you can see, Brush's default skin paints a purple painting, the vintage skin paints a black and white painting, the gloomy painter skin paints a different painting, and the Halloween skin painting copies the default skin painting. And this player's wondering if it's intended, if it's on purpose, or an oversight that they are going to correct in the future. The dev team have not commented on this, so we don't know what's going on here. Our next bug is to do with Connie and her active ability. As you may know, she can go invisible, but this should not work against lethal Twisteds like Dandy and Dial. However, this user said, excuse me, what? So they are against Twisted Dial, they use their active ability, and as you can see, it actually works, and Connie was able to escape Twisted Dial. That should not be happening. And our last bug is to do with Vintage Blot and Blot Jr. Vintage Blot is supposed to have his own Vintage Blot Jr., but instead, the Blot Jr. that you see is for the default skin. So that's been happening for a few weeks now.